continuing to read from Ben Franklin's In My Bathroom by Candace Fleming. Chapter 9. 10 minutes later, we were back on the sidewalk, heading down Augusta Street. "Hey, why are we walking so fast?" asked Olive. "Where's the fire?" That was an expression my dad always used. I could feel my mood getting worse, the bats flapping harder in my belly. Gritting my teeth, I nodded toward Ben, who was once again dressed in his goofy colonial getup. "Why do you think?" "I think we're hurrying to get," Olive grinned. "Ice cream!" She pointed to the Long John Shivers truck parked at the curb. "Did you say ice cream?" said Ben. "The last time I sampled that scrumptious delicacy was while visiting Governor Fowler at his palace in New Jersey. Just before dinner, a summer storm erupted, producing enough hail for the servants to create a most astonishing strawberry confection." He smacked his lips at the memory. "I confess I have not tasted anything like it since." "You should try the Jelly Roger," said Olive. "It's my favorite. Strawberry ice cream with strawberry jam and strawberry sprinkles. It's pink." Grabbing his hand, she tugged him over to the order window. "What do you want, Nolan?" she called back to me. "I want to go home," I said. "We need to get home." "I'll get your usual." She turned to the ice cream man, who was wearing an eye patch and a fake parrot on his shoulder. 2 Jelly Rogers and a vanilla cone. At least she remembered my favorite. The ice cream man handed the treats out the window. "That'll be $4. Olive turned to me expectantly. With a sigh, I reached into my jeans pocket. "Allow me," said Ben. He pulled out a strange-looking bill and handed it through the window. "Hey, old man, what are you trying to pull?" asked the ice cream man. "This isn't real money." "It most certainly is, good sir," retorted Ben. "That's a 10-shilling note. It is legal tender in all the American colonies. I should know. I printed it myself." The ice cream man stuck his head out the window so he and his fake parrot would look Ben in the eye. "You want to know what I would do with homemade money, good sir? Watch this." He wadded Ben's bill into a ball and tossed it into the trash can. The fake parrot rocked back and forth. It kind of looked like it was laughing. "How dare you toss away legitimate money?" demanded Ben. He held the ice cream with one hand and put the other sternly on his hip. "Fie on you, sir." "Oh, yeah," replied the ice cream man. He flipped up his eye patch and made a fist. I pushed between them. "I got it," I said, handing out 4 singles. The ice cream man took the bills. "Crazy old coot," he grumbled under his breath. Flipping his eye patch back down, he slammed the window shut. "What an impolite fellow," muttered Ben. He turned away and took a bite of his ice cream. But he does serve a delicious confection." "I told you so," said Olive through pink-smeared lips. We strolled through the town park. It was the middle of the afternoon, and people lounged on the shaded bench, escaping the heat. Kids climbed on the playground equipment. Dogs panted under the trees. A teenager slushed by on a skateboard. Ben watched her transfixed. "A decidedly odd form of amusement," he finally commented. "I can, Ollie, said Olive. "No, you can't," I said. "If I owned a skateboard, I could." She retorted. "Oh, brother, who, pray tell, is Ollie?" asked Ben. "It's not a who, it's a what," began Olive. I interrupted. "Just forget it." I could feel people's eyes boring into us. "Let's walk faster, okay?" "On the contrary," said Ben. "Let us sit a moment." He lowered himself to a bench with a loud sigh and an even louder toot. "Ew, gross," said Olive. "The best of all medicines are rest and farting," replied Ben. He took a last lick of his ice cream. Olive made a face. "I'm going to swing." "We have to go," I reminded her, "and soon." Yeah. She raced to the playground, a trail of melty pink drops marking her path. Ben patted the bench space next to him. The last thing I wanted to do was sit, but Ben looked tired. I guess stunt swimming, not to mention traveling almost 300 years, would do that to a guy. "Do you promise to stop that?" I asked. "I shall strive to control the whirlwinds in my bowels," he replied. I perched with my half-eaten cone at the far end of the bench. I hoped I was upwind. "Tell me," said Ben, "was that a likeness of my good friend George Washington on the money you gave that peddler?" "He's on the dollar bill," I said, catching a vanilla drop with my tongue. "Other denominations have other faces." "Famous faces, I presume?" I nodded. "Famous Americans. You know, people who did important stuff." I twirled the cone around in my mouth. "Abraham Lincoln is on the $5 bill." Ben sniffed. Him again? Don't feel bad, I said. You're on the front of the $100 bill. You don't say. $100. His face lit up and he turned to me. I should very much like to see one of those bills. Wouldn't we all, I said. From the playground, Olive shouted, Hey, Ben, watch this. She hung upside down on the monkey bars. Be careful, young miss, he hollered back. And then he said to me, You know, Nolan, my daughter was once a little girl like Olive, high-spirited and full of fun. Sally, we called her. She's a grown now. I'm an orangutan, cried Olive. She scratched under her arms and hooted like an ape. I also have had one son, said Ben. For a split second, he looked kind of lost. Then his confusion or whatever it was cleared. He went on, Dearest Frankie, stolen from my mother and me by smallpox at the age of 4. To this day, I cannot think of my little boy without a sigh. He gazed at Olive, who was now swooping back and forth on a swing, shouting, I'm flying! I'm flying! I missed most of Sally's childhood, he finally said. At first, I was too occupied with my printing business and my electrical experiments to spend time with her. Then I journeyed to London on behalf of Pennsylvania's colonists to take up the matter of taxes. He paused. I did not expect to be away from home for 17 years. By the time I returned, we were strangers. Our dad is in London, I said. He moved there 2 months ago. My parents are getting a divorce. Right away, I wished I hadn't told him that. Believe me, talking about the divorce was not something I did, ever. When my friends asked why they didn't see my dad around anymore, I just told them he'd gone away on a business trip, a long business trip. Even Tommy Tuttle hadn't ferreted out that secret yet. Ben watched for a long moment. Ah, Nolan, he finally said. He laid his hand on my shoulder. Didn't brush it off. We sat there together, each of us lost in our own thoughts, when Olive came running back. She wiggled in between us and said, comfy cozy. Ben smiled. Snug as a bug in a rug. I have to admit, it was pretty nice. I leaned back, letting myself relax. I even joined in when Olive started humming Yankee Doodle. Oh, how jolly, said Ben. I know that tune. I just bet you do, came a familiar voice. Then the branches of a nearby lilac bush started to shake. A second later, Tommy Tuttle, wearing a camouflage jumpsuit and a pair of binoculars around his neck, stepped out in front of us. I shook my head in bewilderment. What was with this kid in bushes? And where did he buy those clothes? Olive looked at him and pointed. Were you peeing in there? What? No, snapped Tommy, his cheeks turning red. I was staking you out. See? He held up a notebook labeled Crime-Solving Journal. I've had you three under surveillance all morning. Under what? Asked Olive. Tommy ignored her question. I took detailed notes on everything I saw and heard. And believe me, chumps, what I saw and heard was beyond strange, he went on. Hey, huffed Olive, he called me a chimp. Chump, I corrected her. And who says chump anymore? Both words sound most impolite, added Ben. I tried to act casual. I don't get what's so strange, I said. We've been to the library and the pool and had some ice cream. I shrugged. Seemed like an ordinary summer's day in Rolling Hills to me. There's more to it than that. From a page of his notebook, Tommy pulled out a small square of paper. This proves it. I recognized it right away. It was the shilling note Ben had printed, the one the ice cream man had thrown into the trash can. Tommy waved the money triumphantly. Now what do you say? I say you're a sneaky little snoop, hollered Olive. Sneaky is in my blood, replied Tommy with a little smile. My grandfather is a security guard. I was stunned. He really had watched us all day. My mouth opened, and I blurted out the first thing that came into my head. Yeah, well, my grandfather's a dog groomer. That doesn't make me Skippy John Jones. Huh? Said Olive. I thought Grampy was accountant. Who, pray tell, is this Skippy John Jones? Asked Ben. Forget it, I muttered. Tommy started strutting around in front of us like a lawyer in some courtroom drama. This is colonial money. It is real. I know because I looked it up on Facopedia. It came from his pocket, pointing at Ben. He paused to let the words sink in before adding, so where did he get all this colonial money? There's only one explanation. He brought it with him from colonial times. Maybe he bought it at the antique barn over on Linden Street, I said. Yeah, Olive cut in. The antique barn on Linden. Bet you didn't think of that. The antique barn went out of business, said Tommy. I know because I looked in the windows. He stroked his chin. So just how did Benjamin Franklin and his money get here? He was silent for a minute. Then the corners of his mouth turned up. There's only one way to find out the truth. Oh, yeah, like what, Detective Dork, I said. Hidden camera, bugging device? Maybe you should ask George Washington. It wasn't a great line, I know. But I was nervous. I didn't like the sly look on Tommy's face. There are better ways, he replied. Yes, much better ways. He turned on his heel and abruptly walked away. Butthead. Olive hollered after him. Toot! We looked at Ben. His face was red with glee. I obviously and heartily agree, he said with a grin. With a giggle. Gross, said Olive, giggling too. I didn't join in. Instead, I watched as Tommy hurried out of the park, past the ice cream truck and down Augusta Street. We should go home, I say. And let that meanie ruin our day? No way, said Olive. She flung her eyes wide and exclaimed, Last one to the fire station is a rotten egg. And she took off running. We'll continue reading from Ben Franklin in My Bathroom by Candace Fleming.